Thank you, Doug. Good morning, everyone. Great to be with you. I'm speaking from Coburg in Melbourne on the land of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. And it does give me great pleasure to introduce to you Rachel Leahcar. Rachel, good morning and welcome.
Good morning. I'll just turn on my camera.
Good on you. When I say introduce you, I think a lot of people know you already because you've been very effective in having a presence out there in people's homes, particularly back in 2012 and The Voice. Tell us about that experience.
Well, I certainly try. Well, back then, that was 10 years ago. Gosh, how the time's flown. So yeah, the year before I was actually in year 12 and deciding what I wanted to do with my life, as many people were. And
this meeting is being recorded by the host or a participant. The account owner can also watch this.
You're right, Rachel.
No worries. I loved music and I was already performing, and I thought, oh, what do I want to do? I entered a couple of competitions just because I'm a little bit determined. I've always been focused on what I can do rather than what I can't. So I entered all these competitions to see what would happen, and went on the X Factor and Australia's Got Talent and didn't really get anywhere on those. So I was always looking for the next step. Year 12, I thought, oh, I don't know what I want to do. I got into a speech pathology course at uni, but then I took a gap year just to see how far I could go in music, and I heard blind audition and I thought, oh, that's got to be a sign, doesn't it? So I went into The Voice and just kept getting through all the rounds and ended up coming third, and it was the start of something really beautiful.
And you still perform these days, of course?
Yes, absolutely. Music is in my veins. I could never stop, even if I'm doing a few other things as well.
So tell me, as a kid, when did you realise that music and you had a special relationship?
When I was born, really. My mum said I came out singing. Of course, it was not as not like it is now, but yeah, I would always sing around the house, and because I used my ears so much, I was very tuned to people's voices and would imitate people. I remember giving my mum a heart attack when I imitated Cher for the first time when I was 10. But I just loved singing, and if people enjoyed it, that was a plus.
And you're studying at the moment with the help of a Hugh Jeffrey Scholarship. He of course, is one of the founders of Blind Citizens Australia.
Yes, very grateful for that. I'm in my third year of a Bachelor of Disability in Developmental Education. I joined it on a whim. I'd never heard of the degree before. I sort of describe it as kind of like occupational therapy, but more focused on disability. There's a lot of advocacy in there as well. So yeah, I found out about it in December of 2019. I applied in December, got in January of 2020, and then started that year. So I've really enjoyed it since then, and it was something to do while performing was on hold during COVID.
Well, I know Hugh Jeffrey, being a great musician himself and teacher, would be very proud of you and what you're doing. Rachel, we're about to hear your music. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so I haven't written many songs about my disability because I have chosen mostly to focus on, other things. But I finally wrote a song that is very close to my heart, because when I learned about something called universal design, I thought it was an absolutely amazing concept, which is, building a world that is accessible for everybody, no matter what your ability or disability is. Yeah. And that's what this song is about. As I mentioned before, I like to focus on what you can do rather than what you can't. And this is how I imagine the world should be. And it's called Can Do.
And Can Do is an organisation well known to many people in South Australia where you live. Look, yeah, just before we hand over to your singing voice, tell us where people, after hearing that, they'll want to hear more of your music. Where do they go to?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love people to come and have a chat if you want, if you're a musician as well. If you have any questions about blindness, I think connections and things like this event are so important as well.
And your website?
Yep, it's rachelleahcar.com.au, and you'll know how to spell it because it's the same forwards and backwards.
It is too. rachelleahcar.com.au.
I'm also
Rachel,
on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all the things.
so we should be able to find you. Terrific.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
Yeah, go on.
yeah, and what about your email, Rachel?
Well, people can actually message me through my website. So there's a contact form on there.
Good on you. Terrific,
Yeah.
Rachel. Thanks for speaking to us today. Good luck with the wedding later in the year, by the way.
Thank you. 2 months to go.
And let's go over to Can Do, Rachel Leahcar.
Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day.
We'll get there. Just hang on, everyone. It's always good to have people wait just a little bit longer, a bit more suspense.
Pausing for dramatic effect.
Now, Doug, I'm looking to you. If we don't get to this now, I'm sure we'll get back to it later in the day for people to hear.
And of course, Stephen, we did many tests at 9 o'clock this morning and everything worked fine then. So it's always the way, technology and animals and children.
It's definitely because I've joined the conversation. Technology.
Rachel, it was lovely to hear you say about mentoring, and
it is.
Here we go.
I feel the berries inside, as though my tongue was tied. I'm gonna break the chains and stand with pride. I'll hold my head up high. I leapt across the world to heal, embrace the freedom to feel. I'm tough as nails and I'm strong as steel. I wanna make a difference that's real. I can do anything that I want to. It doesn't matter what you say, I will rise. Said I can do anything that I want to, and nothing will get in my way. I am strong, empowered to know I belong. I dream of a wiser land I can hold in the palm of my hand. Everyone is loved and told they can show the brighter side of man. A land with the power to reach out, learn and teach. I know it's not wrong to believe in each. Sing it loud and preach. I can do anything that I want to. It doesn't matter what you say, I will rise. Said I can do anything.
And Naomi, unfortunately, having a bit of difficulty there by the sounds of it. Naomi, I think we're just having a little bit of difficulty there. Rachel, terrible apologies. Naomi, you can hear me fine?
Don't just look the other way today. I can do anything that I want to. It doesn't matter what you say, I will rise. Said I can do anything that I want to, and nothing will get in my way, I am strong, empowered to know I belong. It's the power of knowing, belonging. It's the power of knowing, belonging that keeps me strong.
Fantastic. Thanks. Thanks, Stephen, and thanks very much, Rachel. That was a great interview, and apologies for a few of the technical hitches there. Must be a few people logging onto the internet around Australia on a Saturday morning. And I'd now just like to hand over to Fiona Woods, our President, for our opening address. Thank you very much, Fiona.
Thanks, Doug. I'm very pleased for everybody's sake that we got to hear Rachel and not me singing. I'd like to welcome everyone today. I'm delighted to be here. This is the third BCA Connect. Although I believe there was 2 in the first year. I'm a bit confused about that, but BCA took the place of state and national conventions in the height of the pandemic, but now these national events have got their own identity, really. The board does dream of planning another in-person event, a convention one day. Perhaps for some people that would be a nightmare, but for the organisers. But from now on, conventions will always incorporate elements of BCA Connect. Today, you can sit wherever you like, however you like. You can eat and drink whatever you like. You can heckle as much as you please, as long as you're on mute, and you can move around when you feel like it. Please ask questions when prompted and participate in the conversations at the breaks and lunchtime. So much work and planning has gone into this event. Even the AFL got the message with their finals starting after the end of today's program. I can't comment on the NRL finals. I don't really follow them. But if you want to avoid the football, you can also go to trivia afterwards. The topics for today were selected after surveying our members, hopefully many of you, about what we wanted to have included in today. As I look at the program, I'm struck by how many of today's topics involve revisiting favourite subjects. I'm sure if I looked into the archives of the past 47 years, I would find past conventions have included sessions including many of the same topics, but with a different flavour. I know one of our earliest conventions, possibly the earliest, featured a discussion on pedestrian safety, but then the focus was on getting audible traffic signals rolled out at major intersections. There probably would have been sessions on technology, but looking more at how to actually use a computer and simple ways of transcribing braille and print. Today's sessions deal with many of the same topics because for people who are blind or vision impaired, the challenges of access and inclusion remain constant, although the manifestations may vary. We still need to be able to walk safely through our communities and to be able to gain and to use information about our world. I'll wait and see how many of the life hacks we learned today could have applied in the past. I suspect many of them because I found myself that the things I need to know and the ways I need to do things have changed a lot throughout my life, and that's even without changes in my vision. Conventions and BCA Connect have also been an important way to update members about all the amazing things BCA gets up to between these major events. The major addition to this program, which has become a feature in more recent years, is discussion about emergency preparedness. It's something we always could have done with knowing about. Like the rest of the world, we never gave it much thought before, but recent events here and throughout the world have shown us it's something we all need to think about and to make sure other people are thinking about us as well. One regular topic, not really on today's program, is employment, but BCA has been running an entire project on that throughout this year, and please check out the Eye to the Future website for some excellent resources and upcoming events in that space. Another thing I noticed about today's program is that all of it applies to all of us. We're all pedestrians, we all rely on technology, as evidenced by the fact that we're all in this virtual room. And we all need to find ways to do life slightly differently. And we all live in Australia, a country prone to natural disasters of all sorts. BCA is involved in many things. We attend lots of meetings and with governments and agencies, with other disability organisations, and we prepare lots of submissions. And you can learn about all the wonderful things BCA does in our weekly member updates and Sally's CEO videos. We discuss lots of topics at BCA Inform and various other areas, but there are so many areas where BCA needs to be present and involved, but the issues we're discussing today are the reason BCA exists. They're basically our bread and butter, the things we work on and support people with every day. We've been preparing for BCA Connect for several months, but none of us exists in a vacuum, and it's impossible not to be aware that so much of the news around this time has been about death. I'm sorry if you're dealing with grief or loss at this time, and if you are, please feel free to mute me for 1 minute or seek help from Lifeline on 131114 or Beyond Blue on 1300 224636. In recent months, we've seen the passing of Olivia Newton-John, Judith Durham, Archie Roach, Uncle Jack Charles, and of course the Queen. In our own community, we've farewelled Neville Kerr and Ivan Lloyd, and of course, there have been many others I haven't mentioned. Many of us will have friends and loved ones who've died in this time, and it might feel as if their loss has been overshadowed and that their achievements have not received their fair share of attention.
Why won't it let me leave? I'm pressing the leave
The thing
button.
that's significant about the deaths of these larger-than-life characters is that, on the whole, we didn't know them well, or if at all, and we met them fleetingly, if ever. Two things stand out for me. First, the memories people are sharing about them aren't of the big moments. It's not the speeches they made when they opened a building or what they wore when they won an award. It's the gestures they made when someone gave them flowers, or what they said when they met them briefly or unexpectedly. What connects us to these people are the things that they said or did that makes us feel that we have something in common with them and proves to us that they are as much a part of humanity as us. We admire someone like Neville Kerr for his ingenuity and interviewing style and for his sheer stamina in producing so many New Horizons programs. But for those of us who didn't know him, we feel affection for him when we think about him in his living room, putting together all the tapes or walking with them to the post office or getting on the tram to deliver them to the studio. As people who are blind or vision impaired, we're accustomed to reading or hearing about the high achievers in our society, in our community. We're proud of them and we admire them, but we care for them when we hear them talking about the issues we ourselves grapple with: parenting, working out what clothes we look good in, or how to get a job. One of the joys for me of BCA is that whatever people's accomplishments and status, you can meet at a real or virtual event and support each other in our shared knowledge of what it's like to live as a person who is blind or vision impaired. The Executive Leadership Program, for me, was an example of this, where some of the most famous leaders in our organisation or community talked about how they felt when, for example, when they walked into a room not knowing anyone or who was even in there, and they knew they had to network. The other thing that I notice about all this public grief is that despite distance, time and probability, we feel a connection with these people. There seems to be millions of people who met the Queen, but not all the people gathering in the streets or leaving flowers around the world could have met her. We know these public figures as images or voices. It's not necessary to be people physically, to be with people, to feel a strong sense of connection. For many of us, even of those with sight, it's the sound of the voice that brings familiarity and recognition. Now that in-person events are possible again, there seems to be a tendency to dismiss the many virtual connections that were made during the past 2 years as inferior or substitutes. But I chair a board which has physically met only once, and even then 3 of the members were not in the room. Many of our staff at BCA have never met each other. Events like today would not be possible if the board and staff did not operate as a genuine team, even though we've never physically met. Although we've only been a virtual workplace for a few years, BCA has always flourished because of our ability to connect despite not being physically together. BCA was founded in Melbourne, but very quickly had branches all around Australia because of that connection. It might sound trite, but we are united by our common purpose of informing, connecting and empowering people who are blind or vision impaired and the wider community. Through our common purpose, we've created our own place to belong. If you enjoy this virtual connection, please come along to trivia or to our weekly BCA conversations or monthly informs, or you can join many peer connect groups where you can join groups of people with whom you might share a common interest. You can also attend some local branches online still and women's branch events. And if you are craving physical connection, many of our branches are now meeting regularly in person. I invite you today to value BCA Connect as a place where we all can be together, can impact each other by the sounds of our voices or the words we share, and by experiencing our common humanity. Please enjoy.